Hello, everyone. Welcome to Psychology and Spirituality, a bridge to a better life discussion. Yeah, we get here once a week and we talk and actually dive deeply into life's big questions, those stories and the journeys that shape us, all of us, you, me, Jussara, and all of us who are here today. Well, I'm your host, Marcia Trajano, and with me is our program founder and co-host, Jussara Korngold, and we'll take our time today to talk about this fascinating journey of migration, physical, emotional, psychological migration. Ju, before we get to this, how are you doing? How's your day today?
Hello, everyone. I've been doing great, and it's been always such a privilege to continue in this path and this journey. And like you say, every week we are here, every week we are learning more, growing more, and having so much food for thought. And and I really enjoyed this journey so much, and I'm glad to be here. I hope everyone that is with us today is as as engaged as we are in this journey. To getting to know oneself and to better oneself, because after all, that's what leads us to what we want more, right? Peace of mind and and the heart. That's what we want.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Ju, will you allow me to maybe this is an idea, right? To briefly introduce the subject of human migration across history. And I'm talking about early migrations to present day. Is that
Sure,
okay?
totally.
All right, I appreciate that. Just a few minutes. Yeah, because um, if you think about right the idea of exploring returning home, not just as a place, but returning home to ourselves, right, and the deep symbolism that this journey holds. But human migration, we're talking about physical human migration, is as old as humanity itself. And it's really driven, if you think about it, uh, better resources or away from a scarcity of those resources. And those resources can be around, oh, climate, food, even that social. Economic status. And if you think about it, it goes back all the way. We're talking about 100,000 years ago, and from there, that early migration from Homo sapiens, those migrations, right? If we start to think about the entire map of Earth, humans, the early humans, they spread across Asia, Europe, Americas, and migration really wasn't just about survival. It meant that adaptation, and I say this specifically, Ju, because I'm thinking the how the ego is an instrument for us to adapt, to be able to meet the demands of wherever it is that we inserted our family, our society, our culture, etc. But anyways, from a human migration perspective, we're talking about this moving away from X, a tribal X to a tribal Y, so on and so forth. And it highlighted that ability for humankind to adapt. But if you keep moving, right, historically speaking, we can think about oh, agricultural revolution where we're no longer nomadic, but we start to stay put, right, and begin establishing settlements, etc. But if you start to look even Middle Ages to the 19th century and the Industrial Revolution, it becomes really interesting. And by the way, Jo, this was a subject of study for me. It's fascinating the entire upon the onset of Christianity, right? We're talking about the Roman Empire holding on to Christianity as its official religion. and what you're going to do with all those migratory tribes. But we're not going to talk about this today. I just think it's fascinating, that notion of a movement of people or peoples. And 19th century comes in, we have a more industrial revolution, and we start to move. And it's very interesting because to date we see this, right? Where I was born, let's say, in a small town, and there's not enough resources, jobs. I moved to a larger town, etc., etc. So that's this just really moving, and the movement leads to certain emotional aspects, right? So, as historically speaking, we can talk about all the societies, how they're reshaped, etc., etc. But I just wanted to talk to you to think about it, as we ponder about the subject. What can we talk about, Jussara, about this idea of going back home? And I'm just going to be very broad in this question for you, because symbolically speaking, this return home, and in my mind, we're talking about capital R, return, capital H, returning home. This idealized state is should be a journey, right, Jusada, that should be rich, joyful, beautiful, right? And it's a journey that really puts us to confront with maybe memories, maybe legacies, with our roots or identity, safety, all of those things that emotionally speaking give us the sense of the nest, the home, right? Can we maybe talk a little bit from your perspective? What are the intricacies of returning home, Josada?
Yeah, so Marcia, like I said, a big question and a big research for us of all. And what I was thinking while you were presenting that is the aim. What is the aim that has been with us from the beginning, which is
Mm-hmm,
survival, right? It's that we need to survive. But of course, according to our ideas, times, like you said, changes and eras that pass by, we change, right? What
mm-hmm,
we thought we needed before, we don't need it anymore, or we will create new needs. And actually, what came to my mind first was really the gestation of a baby and then the baby being born, and how, you can really make parallel between, the growth of a child, a baby, to complete adulthood. In
yes,
terms of, um, my basic needs, right? And like you were
yes,
talking about, historically speaking, is to survive. And at that moment, according to what I have, the conditions I have, this is what I'm going to be looking for. So,
mm-hmm,
psychologically speaking, we are not mature enough, emotionally speaking, to think about something else than just the survival of the physical body, which is the primary concern that we are going to be having for quite some time. Like you said, we
mm-hmm,
move out to different lands. We had to be no longer nomads. We'll be living in tribes and
mm-hmm,
associating in little villages, cities, countries, etc.
mm-hmm.
Got to attach it to everything else. But yeah, went through industrial revolution, then Y2K, technological revolution, and God knows
Yeah,
what's coming next.
yeah,
I think, when we think about this journey, right, of getting to know oneself, and obviously, here I cannot discard the idea of thinking about a creator,
yes,
right? So, according to what most religions talk about, there is a creator.
mm-hmm,
were created simple and unenlightened, Adam and Eve, whatever, we messed up in many of the legends that we have. They talk about some
Yeah.
form of Adam and Eve, right? You know,
Yeah.
and and there is this inner search that is mostly guided by primeval emotions, or right, instinct, basically instinct. And
Hmm.
of course, from all of that, things are going to mature, and they are going to be maturing the more we start you know forming bonds that goes beyond just the physical needs.
Hmm.
And I think that's the big experience. So, what is the start point in this journey? Is survival. And to me, what would be our ideal, our goal? Where are we going? Okay, we can say perfection, but to me, is ultimate love. Uh,
Yes.
when I recognize and live with the self.
Yeah.
Some I think we have these two opposites when we are talking about psychology and spirituality, right? We are
Yeah.
talking, really just survival, egocentric emotions, until I recognize and accept that I'm of a divine origin.
Yes.
But how do I go from here to there, right? And that there is the big journey, that is the big issue that we can be talking about today, right? I just
Yeah, and real quickly, when you talk about that psychological and spiritual, right? We could talk about this journey toward our Creator or Father, um, and this rings to me as a religious journey, but it is not, right? This is truly a journey of psychological maturity, where it doesn't matter where you were born or where you moved in your historical migration, personal migration or not. But we all go through that. We go through this toward this survival, and having a sense of, I got this, right? We got this. We have what it takes to be able to be comfortable. But then there's this initial deconstruction of all that we got, which is that survival, that very material aspects, into that spiritual that you're referring to, the spiritual and psychological maturity that is a journey actually of, as I said before, deconstructing all those values, because those values in fact are ephemeral. They're not sustainable if we're talking about our true essence, which is um, that spiritual essence that we all bring. Does this make sense?
Yes, absolutely. And I think one point that is very important to talk about here as well is that how this is, even though we were just making a parallel talking about, being born as a baby, going through,
See?
teenager years, adolescence, becoming an adult, becoming a parent, getting old, how somehow the micro experience reflects the macro experience,
Mm-hmm.
because we are talking about our limitation as human beings, as still imperfect human beings that definitely have not migrated from the ego survival to the self yet, but we are in this
Absolutely.
in little steps. And I mean, everyone that experiences parenthood, whether biologically or not, they will know, they know what we're talking about in terms of this emotion. So when you have the opportunity of raising a child, whether it's your biological child or not, but being part of this construction,
Yeah.
is the ultimate love that we learn on earth. Of course, we are not saying that all parents love their, they should, but they're not necessarily. But what it does represent, and this is what we are talking about here. So I
Mhm.
want to pass on experience. We want to pass on love. We want to pass on all this knowledge and understanding that they will have the continuators. They will be the continuators, the multiplier of this, growth movement of being loving and receptible. Weeks back, we talked a little bit about, the prodigal son and how
Mhm.
was connected to that, and how the reaction of the father. And the reaction of the father, this is the reaction of parenthood, of spiritual parenthood, that we are discussing here, whether there is no reprimand, there is just love, embracing, and uh, okay, you took your journey, like we all take our journeys, and we know that, I guess many of us have had this, um, attitude of, being closer or more distant from what it represents home to you at a certain point in your life,
Yeah.
or many points in your life, and how somehow experience, time, growth will lead you to reflect upon those times, and seeing that, yeah, maybe they were important. They
Yeah.
brought that where you are, but it was a way of you growing and recognizing you, and being each time more closer to the self, to this love, to this ultimate love that you can bestow, and teach by examples, not necessarily by words, right?
Yes, I want to go back to something that you said, Jussara, because I thought something here that this is just a parenthesis, folks, a parenthetical pause, but to that the idea that you brought for us. So, if I may here, Jussara, when we were talking about that we were created, we in many different myths of the creation, right? And including Christian or Spiritist or whatever, that we are created simple and unaware, very much that innocent child that is born as a spirit, as an immortal spirit, and as we grow, we stumble, right, Josada? We fall, we fail so many times, and it's in this journey of trial and failing and succeeding that we grow, and so it's this polar opposites. I failed. What do I do with this? Well, I learn, let me try again a different way, and then we learn, so on and so forth. This is classic Darwinian theory of evolution, where animals and plants all evolved through the journey of adaptation through time to be better adapted to a different environment. But I just wanted to pause here because many years ago, Josada, I was listening to an interview that the actor Dustin Hoffman, right? He was it was I think Oscar time, and he was sharing this moment in his life, this reflection, and he said that he decided when he was quite young to go to New York City. Right. But what still to date, so many, I think this is like 20 plus years ago, I listened to this interview with him, but he explained in the interview that he moved away because he wanted to pursue acting, right? But he wanted to pursue acting in a place as far away from home as possible so that he could fail without the pressures of everyone around him witnessing it. So he did. He moved to New York, and he failed. But he succeeded. And today, I believe he's now. in his 70s, if not older. He amassed this beautiful career as an actor. But what comes to my mind here, Josada, is the idea that in our journeys, plural, symbolically speaking, we should also understand, again, in a polarity perspective, that we should be able to embrace failure because it is part of the journey, right? We are imperfect spirits searching for perfection, but we're not there yet. So when I hear that, when I remember that, it's this idea that we should be able to love ourselves even when we are considering and they're debating, should I take this risk, right? Is this the best way to do it? Well, I'll do, and boom, I fail. Yeah, I fall flat on my face. But I can learn no matter what from that situation. And I think the idea to return home, I it didn't happen to Dustin Hoffman, but to me, if we were hypothetically speaking, right, he goes to New York City, he fails, he comes back home, um, and what, right? Is going back home a journey of guilt and distress, right? Or is it a place, regardless of failure, success, that the Father, and we're talking about here, Father as in God, right? Symbolically speaking, embraces that person and embraces with no recrimination, which is what you mentioned earlier. Um, Preparing that person, that young man at the time. Okay, this didn't go. Let me help you get back to try again, so that you then learn from me and be that father figure to your child. That's what came to my mind. Does this kind of meet what you were talking about, perhaps?
Well, in a way, one thing that we have to keep in mind is that
Yeah,
we're not the only variables in the game.
yeah, that's right.
Times, when you were talking about failing, and I was thinking that it's not trying to find an excuse and saying it's not your fault,
Uh-huh.
but you see, there are so many variables at play, and maybe we did not succeed as we should, but it was not just because we were not good enough, or there could have been better people, different
Mhm.
circumstances. And I think this is one important thing for us to think about, because sometimes we beat ourselves too hard in terms of saying, I'm never going to do it, I'm never going to succeed at it,
Mhm.
look, another failure. And I mean, it's so, I was thinking about a game of chess. There are so many pieces, only one are going to be winning, right? The queen. but
That's right.
but you see,
Mhm.
there are so many other games, and so many other things that, right, I can be in different place. So I think for starters, it would be good for us to say, I'm doing what I'm wired to do. I
Yes.
I'm trying to survive, and to me, survival means what? At this point, like you were saying to Dustin Hoffman, he wanted to have a career in acting, and
Yes.
necessarily even thinking about such a successful career as he had, but he's happening, right? But you see, that's what drives us. And like we were saying, the different needs that we have, and sometimes we are wrong. But you see, like you say, we are always learning with experience, even if it's,
Mhm.
say, you know what, I thought I was good enough, but now getting into there, I can see that I'm just ordinary, like many people in this field. And
Mhm.
there'll be some niche for me. There will be something else, and
Yeah.
I'll try something else. And I think, that the return home, like we were talking about here, this self discovery process, it
Yeah.
has to go through all of that,
Mhm.
through um, all the tries. Here, of course, we are talking about being being sensible as much as possible, right? We are not
Mhm.
just say, just throw everything in the air and be crazy like apparently the prodigal son was, just give me my money and I'm just going to be leisuring at my pleasure in the world and my
Mhm.
whims and no care
Yeah.
for, you know, Hakuna Matata, right?
Yes, I love it. I love it. We're
Just
now we're now going to the Lion King. Right? Let's
say,
be happy.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
be happy, Hakuna Matata. And
Yeah.
no, we're not talking about that. But it's sometimes, and we understand, and like we say, using the micro example, which it's
Mhm.
us and being born, etc. Sometimes when we are too close to home, too close to the ones that want to protect us.
Mhm.
I cannot grow my wings because they like a parent, if they could,
Mhm.
they would not
Mhm.
allow you to grow in a cocoon and,
Yeah.
and be having to make all that effort to start and to become a black butterfly because it's a
Yeah.
lot. If I,
Yeah.
we would be there and peak if we could, just so you can come out earlier. And
Yeah.
so sometimes, this is the process,
Yes.
and but I mean, it's just a representation, right? Of we have to be aware when enough is enough and when we are taking the right track or not, so that
Yeah.
not we should try not to elongate our return that much because it's going to be painful the
Mhm.
longer we are from ourselves, our true nature,
Mhm.
the
Yeah.
more difficult it's going to be, the more struggle we will going to be facing, when getting there,
Yeah.
being there, and being capable of then being there for others as well is the supreme ideal, I think,
Mhm.
uh, when I can accept my nature, what I am, that I can be true to myself, I can be true to the world.
Yeah.
I mean, I know those words seems too big because they are, and they are very far from us. But I mean, but we already have an idea what that means,
Yeah.
right? And yes.
So Joanna DeAngelis, just on the topic, right? Those are my words, but she mentions that home symbolizes this familiar place, whatever that may be for you, for me, for all of us here today, right? It is where the deep values of my ego are developed. Therefore, it's really critical for us from a psychological perspective, that sense of of place, right? The sense of this is where the values of that family, that place, the culture, the time, etc., help shape who I am, and who I am as my personality in this corporeal existence, this incarnation needs to be able to survive. Back to the idea of survival. But then Jonah D'Angeli also talks that home, right, is where the self is affirmed, meaning it's not just okay, I'm living in this material life and I'm going to focus on my personality, etc., and I forget the self, capital S, as Joanna D'Angeli brings, which is really the spirit, right? She's referencing our immortal spirit. So it's important for us to think about it, and maybe just so that we can uh, go a little bit into the idea of what should we or can we associate with the idea of home, right? Is it a place where my health and well-being is guaranteed, or Is it a place like Dustin Hoffman that had to move away? I cannot deal with your judgment and the shame for failing with you, so I'm going away, right? I'm just kidding, Dustin Hoffman. If you're listening to us, I'm just kidding. But it's the idea that for some, home is a place of joy, right, Josiah? But why is it maybe not a place of joy for all of us? I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Well, since we started talking about, migrations and everything,
Yeah.
um, well, I have migrated myself quite a few
Mhm.
times to different countries, different cities.
That's right. That's right.
Uh,
Hmm.
and the thing is, if there is one thing that I learned from that, is that home is where you are.
Hmm.
Okay, I mean, you can be in different countries speaking different languages and different surroundings and the weather and customs and all of that, the food that you eat, the soap that you're going to be
Hmm.
using. But at the end of the day, home is where you are, so it makes it
Hmm.
very clear that you are the one that is going to make the place where you are home.
Hmm.
The first place that we are is ourselves, right? I mean, I'm
That's
not
right.
going to think about confining myself to the physical body, but it's living with me, living with my mind. And once there is this kind of understanding and acceptance that it's more how I feel. And Joanna de Angelis in the in one passages of one of her books, it talks about as well that in a way, even when we are in those stages of exploring and
Mhm.
finding things and surviving, we never truly disconnected from the creator.
And that's such beautiful, idea for all of us to just stop and just think about it. No matter what, we never disconnect, right?
We
It's just I don't.
connect. So, like
Mhm.
we mentioned weeks ago as well about the umbilical cord, we have an umbilical cord with our creator. This is never
Mhm.
going to be disconnected. And so, the more I understand and accept that, yeah, and accept that there is this divine origin in me, and this is the divine origin, the spark that inhabits me in
Mhm.
me, that is going to represent the boom of this living with the self. Sometimes some philosophies talk about nirvana, heaven, whatever you want to say,
Yes.
but it is to somehow experience bliss,
Yes.
right? And not in a way that we construct here, that then
Mhm.
obliterated from the world, that you're no
Mhm.
longer an individual, or that you're going to be like, what, I don't know, just living in a machine in the matrix, right?
Yes.
You bliss, understanding, resilient, creating, doing, but in a state of mind that there is peace within.
Mhm.
And I think that being that the goal and understanding that, even though we
Yeah.
know there is still a long journey to go, okay,
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
hey, I'm going to enjoy the ride,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
We are in this ride. Let's enjoy it. Let's make it less complicated as possible.
Mhm.
I mean, if I get into, again, I'm going to talk about a game. If I get into a game without knowing the rules, probably I will make a lot of bad moves before, right? So now
Yes.
I know that there are rules. I know that there are things, that are clues that can help me getting there without complicating my life, myself further. So I want to know about it. I want to learn about it. And this is what Joanna de Angelis is all about. This is what is psychology and all the help that we have from the science to lead us to think and to analyze. Have you thought about it, that this kind of trauma may be related to, this experience that you had, or that this talent that you are developing is because you somehow it called your attention when you were a child, or this, or because it's not only about bad things, it's about good things. We focus
Mhm.
too much on the bad, and sometimes we lose control just because of that. We just thinking, oh my God, this is something horrible that is happening. I'm never going to get out of it. How many times we went through that already? So we should know
Mhm.
better. Everything shall pass, right? And
Yes. Yeah.
whatever it is we are going through, the world is going through, it will shall pass, because everything changes, everything moves. There is always progress coming, sometimes at hard costs,
Mhm.
unfortunately, but yeah, nobody can stop progress, our progress, and we can delay it but not stop it.
Yeah, and it's very interesting. I was just reading the other day the Gospel according to Spiritism. I believe it's chapter 16, right? And it talks about it fortune, right? Fortune as in what you amass in a physical life. And in that passage, that item, we're giving this message. It's so interesting because it matches what we're talking here in a way. There, we're told that when we are traveling to another country, we need to be very careful with what we take, right, Jasada? You mentioned you moved to many different countries. So, for example, let's pretend I'm going to be outlandish here, but one of the places that you're going to go next, Jasada, is, I don't know, Antarctica. Right? You're going to live there, and the climate will require you very precise planning on what you need to survive there, from food to shelter and clothing, etc. You don't take, for example, sandals, you don't take bathing suits, etc. So from that perspective, in the Gospel according to Spiritism, it is referencing our return home, as in returning home to the Father, to the Creator, to our spiritual essence. And for that, anything that we hold on here is really unnecessary. It is the sandal, as if you're going to Antarctica, not going to help. Not you're going to take is going to take part of your luggage, and you're never going to touch it because it is just too cold. In any ways, I was just thinking about it. um, how do we, all of us here, can take some learnings from this message or this idea of I'm a human being. I have, as part of the humanity in its historical evolution, we collectively speaking, have migrated over and over again, looking for something, mostly survival, mostly material aspects of our movement. But we don't need to do that anymore, right, Josara? We are at a place now that we can finally look for, referencing now the gospel according to Spiritism, to what do I need to my next move? What are the elements? And I think that is the ultimate migration, which is that spiritual and psychological migration toward the essence of who we are. And I think you referencing living the bliss. I love that. For those of you who may not know what Jussara is referencing, it is based on the happiness. I think it's called happiness and positive psychology. Right? It's a movement in the West, which is a a specific way of looking into how can I cultivate, how can I ensure there is room in my life for joy, for meaning, for satisfaction. And of course, unlike what we would think, oh, give me money, give me fame. No, wrong answer here. In happiness psychology, it is all about once we really promote a sense of gratitude, mindfulness, and positive relationships, that's when we start to get to that bliss that Jusara you mentioned about. So I think it's important for all of us to start thinking to where is my ultimate goal in my journey? What is my journey and where do I want to get there? What do I need to bring in my luggage to get to that point? Jusada, what are your thoughts so we can, we're coming to a point that it's almost at the end of our time together. So maybe you can bring us some insights into all of us who are here today to that discussion of what is that the goal of
Yeah.
our
Well,
journeys.
one thing, Marcia,
Mm,
so definitely um, I mean, having this understanding that,
mm,
changes will happen, right? And
yeah.
that things are going to perish and that, you enjoy them while
Mm,
they last, but they are not the ultimate things. And
mm,
yeah, just that she has a phrase that she says that the return home is inevitable.
yeah.
All will eventually return to the distant yet near homeland of spirituality from
Beautiful.
which we have departed, but in order to grow and to develop our inner divine. So, I mean, this is a journey that we all are going to take. And
Yeah.
like I said, the best prepared we can be, the best is going to be for us, the better it's going to be for us. And I think, here, as always, we are never saying, give up on things on or lose your hope. The contrary, we are talking about, raise your hopes and there everything is under control. It may seem that we are maybe living in a little chaos, but it's a very controlled and organized chaos, and that everything's going to work out in our favor at the end, especially if we allow that to happen. And so, going after my divine nature, going after my, understanding that I am a living potential and a living potential to just become better than I am right now. I'm
Mm,
always bettering this version of myself. It's faster than technology. I can assure you guys to say, I go buy a computer, I leave the store, it's obsolete already. We are constantly renewing cells, renewing our neurons, learning from the experiences in our spirit. So we are updating constantly. And this is the, I think, the beauty that is inside of us, that represents the self, that represents the journey of this joy, healing, and renewal that we are talking about here. And that is the ultimate goal for all of us. So um, experiences, take advantage of them,
yeah.
learn from your mistakes, from your good attitudes, keep on repeating, and just don't be afraid of living and of enjoying and of sending out this always good and energy. And again, never forget that you are constantly connected to the higher force that is the divine power that exists in you.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. I want to just remind all of us, right? Migration has shaped human history for thousands and thousands of years. But this journey back home, literally or symbolically, is just as important as the effort of going out is to return, because the return home, it's about healing, it is about transformation, it is really about embracing what's coming next, right? That the next stage of growth may be embracing, I don't know, paternity and in preparing the next generation for parenthood, right? To become the parent next. It is about my next stage as an immortal soul, as in this lifetime, or the next stage of where I need to be. So whether you're physically returning to your own roots or simply reflecting on your personal journey. I'm doing that, by the way. Remember, the return home is a celebration of life's continuous evolution, as Jussara just said. No matter where we go, we always carry a piece of home with us. And I just want to say thank you, all of you, for joining us today. We do hope this conversation has sparked some reflection on your journey and the meaning of home. And if this is the first time you listen to our program, please note that the Psychology and Spirituality weekly talks are based on the works by Jonah DeAngelis. We hope you're able to perhaps expand your own spirituality concepts by juxtaposing them in this psychological lens. And before I go, I would be remiss if I wouldn't thank our sponsors. So thank you, Mansão do Caminho, the United States Spiritist Federation, the International Spiritist Council, and AMI Brazil, the Brazilian arm of the Medical Spiritist Association. We'll be back next week with another episode, so stay tuned. And until then, please take care and please keep on embracing your own journey. Thanks, everyone. Bye bye.